it's really just about being able to provide a safe space for men to come and talk.
Yeah.
Now, whether it be about mental health, whether it be about your family issues, whatever it may be, it's like us men coming together to be able to help each other and support each other.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the HSE Talking Health and Wellbeing podcast. My name is Fergal Fox and today we're talking about fatherhood. We're publishing this episode in the middle of Men's Health Week in the run-up to Father's Day, and our special guest today is Shane Lynch, who not only is a dad but is a parenting facilitator with Deansrath Family Centre in Clondalkin. So we'll be discussing fatherhood and lots more besides. To our listeners, thank you for your continued support and please share this episode with anyone you think would get something out of it. If you'd like more information about HSE Health and Wellbeing, have a look at our website at hse.ie/health and wellbeing. Follow us on X, have a look at our HSE Health and Wellbeing YouTube channel, or register for our e-zine by emailing healthandwellbeing.communications@hse.ie. Now, Shane, you're very welcome to the podcast. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Fergal. Thanks for having me in.
So you are delivering a parenting program in Deansrath Family Centre. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so 2.5 years ago, I took up the position in Deansrath Family Centre as a family support worker. And one of our core kind of programs would be the delivery of our Parent Plus programs. So I'm trained in 3 areas of that. So one would be our 1 to 6. I'm also trained in our Healthy Families program and also our Working Things Out program. So that's working with adolescents.
So that's given you a lot of contact then with parents of all sorts.
Oh, yeah.
Men and women.
Men and women. I suppose we walk through the whole continuum. You know, we're working with kids from the age of 1 up to adults, up to grandparents and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So you've got a really good insight into how important the parenting role is.
Oh, yeah. I suppose, 2.5 years ago, I probably didn't, until I took the job and I got stuck in and, read the manuals and, even for myself, it was quite life-changing, some of the stuff that I learned, that I'm delivering now to the parents. So
we wanted to talk about fatherhood today, and you're a father yourself.
I am indeed, of 4 kids, yeah.
So you just said there that you learned messages for home.
Oh, yeah. If only I had this 20 years ago when I had my first child, it would have helped me so much. But look, there is no manual on parenting, really, we're all winging it.
Yeah.
We just try and do the best we can with the resources we have. But, if I had known back then what I know now, things could have been a lot easier for me with my own children,
Do you think there's something unique about the fatherhood role?
Yeah. It's so important. Being a father to me is probably the most important job in the world, Me being a father to my kids is just so important to me. I need to be able to teach them, my morals, my beliefs, respect, just to be a nice person, be kind,
Pass on your values.
100%. It's so important. It's what was instilled in me by my parent, and I suppose it's my job to instill that in my children.
I talk to a lot of men when they initially become a dad. It's like a bolt of lightning.
Oh yeah, it changed my life. I suppose I went from having no responsibility, and it gave me a sense of responsibility very quick. Because I had a young son who depended on me. So it really did. Being young, I suppose I was in my early 20s when I had my first son, and it changed my whole life. It just put a perspective on my life that it wasn't just for myself anymore. Now I have to look out for him and my partner as well.
Yeah, that is a big adjustment in terms of health behaviors. A lot of the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, as you just said there, if you're just thinking about yourself and having a good time, your late teens, early 20s, or whatever stage you get to fatherhood, having that responsibility thrust on you, it does make you think twice about some of those
definitely does.
Other behaviours, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. I wasn't really into partying really myself, but it really gave me a sense of, I had to provide, I have to provide for my kids, and I suppose for me to protect them, but to turn me into the person I am now, to change my whole life.
Sometimes I think that you're so into the role with your first child, and sometimes you take yourself for granted, or you don't maybe stay learning all the time, that the parenting role is something that you need to stay switched on all the time.
All the time, I suppose. As they get older, the behaviours become more challenging. Being a parent becomes more challenging. Obviously, because we're trying to nurture our children and we're trying to provide for them, but at the same time, we're also trying to protect them and keep them safe, So it's a huge responsibility being a parent.
When you're delivering parenting programs, what kind of issues are coming in from the dads that you meet?
To be totally honest with you, the numbers of fathers who do engage in the programs are still quite low, So there's a lot of work to be done to try and encourage more men to take part and get involved. When it comes to parenting, a lot of people presumed it's a mother's role.
Yeah.
To do that. Men go out and work, women stay at home, where it's not really like that in my house, We both work. any parents that are coming into our program, we try and encourage more men to come in, but, you know, we have to understand that there's huge barriers for these men to come into that room, you know. Predominantly 90% of the room be made up of women. Even for myself as a facilitator, you know, I'm working with 5 women for 5
It is
family
a bit of
support
an
workers.
unusual novelty that we have a man delivering parenting. That like it's crazy that I haven't heard of that before.
Yeah. Suppose, yeah, even for myself, it was quite challenging at the beginning, you know, being a man, being a father, coming in and delivering parenting programs. It was quite challenging at the start, you know.
Yeah, so you had to get your own head around it.
I did, yeah. The one good thing, obviously, having experience as a father, having 4 children myself, you know, to me that...
You had a CV.
I had a CV, yeah.
Very good, very good. So when you're in the groups, what kind of issues do you hear the parents coming up with, whether they be men or women?
Nowadays, we're young people, things have changed so much, you know, going back to when I was a kid, you know, we didn't really have to worry much about being exposed to social media and all these things now that kids are exposed to. But that seems to be one of the biggest challenges coming in at the moment is young people and technology and accessing technology and stuff seems to be quite common across the board now with parents coming in looking for support around
screen time.
Screen time, yeah.
Yeah. It's a huge concern.
Yeah.
And I know we've had a podcast earlier this year with my colleague Eamon Kyo and 2 of the parenting facilitators from other centres, and they talked about what the people attending parenting get from the other people attending. So there's a peer dynamic there.
Peer-led is so important. As I say to all the parents that come to our programs, you know, we're here to deliver a program. We have the manual, but they have the wealth of knowledge, you know, the experience sitting in the room and the knowledge in the room and the peer-led approach. And being honest with you, a lot of our parenting programs, we rely so heavily on the parents' involvement because they are the ones that have the knowledge and they are the ones that can provide support for some of the other parents in the room. Also, we would do a wraparound support, but the value of having parents who have gone through similar issues to come in and maybe talk about that and share their experience can help so many other parents.
And how did you get into this role?
Went right back to my teens. I was a fabricator, metalwork fabricator, done my apprenticeship, and the recession came in 2008. So, you know, anyone that was in that sort of work was looking for other work. I got talking to a guy who was talking about CE schemes. I didn't know what a CE scheme was. And, you know, I was out of work. I wasn't doing anything. I thought, you know, I'd rather be doing something than sitting at home doing nothing. So I ended up going to work in Roundstown Youth Service in Clondalkin as a youth worker. I was there for 3 years and then I went for a job in a place called the Clondalkin Travellers Development Group in Clondalkin.
I know them, yeah.
Yeah, so I was specifically, my role there was working with men around drug and substance misuse. So I was there for 14 years as a youth and community development worker.
So you're working with people in the past that had a lot of social issues.
Oh yeah, hugely.
Yeah.
I suppose I specifically worked with men. Mental health within the travelling community was the outcomes. And you look at our jails, it's like the All Ireland Traveller Health Study and the outcomes of that. And, you know, it's quite stark, you know.
Oh, it is.
It really is. It's shocking, you know. And now, suppose where I live in Clondalkin, we would have similar kind of outlooks, you know, when it comes to men's mental health and stuff, you know. It's quite stark. Statistics, suicide rates are just so high, you know.
Yeah. Similar to the story that you're saying about parenting, that we need to normalise it for men.
Oh, we do.
But there's an extra stigma there for men's mental health that we need to break down.
Definitely, 100%. Look, men predominantly do not attend services, will not go into doctors, will not go to hospitals, will not attend counselling. Very few of them will come and do parenting programs. But, you know, I suppose my approach over the last few years, sometimes we need to have a carrot on the stick. You need to have something for these men to buy into, you know. So giving these men a carrot on the stick to get them in the door was so important, you know, because we need to break down the stigma. We need to normalise that it's okay to come and talk, you know, it's okay to look for parenting supports. We're not perfect. None of us are perfect.
I haven't met a parent yet that didn't need advice or support. And I should signpost now to the HSE website. We have very good support and advice on hse.ie. We'll give the signpost in the podcast information. But everybody needs this. And if you're coming from a set of circumstances that might have extra challenges, you may need it even more.
Exactly. Like suppose like if you're coming from an area where I come from and you know, predominantly a lot of the households would be single parent families, you know, and for us, it's great to see more men coming and taking up their parenting programs because it's so important for these men to be part of their children's lives, you know.
Yeah.
It really is, you know. The outcomes for the fathers and their children would be much better having the fathers, I suppose, in their lives. But also for the fathers that we get in the door who are coming looking for a bit of support, you know, they're there because for whatever they're going through in their own family life, they may be struggling with behaviours of the children, you know, or there could be additional needs in the household and the parents are just really struggling, you know, especially fathers. A lot of fathers will not talk about their struggles or how they're feeling or emotions. through the parenting programs, it gives them an outlet to actually come and talk about their experience of being a parent.
One of the phrases that you used in our call around planning this podcast was the safe space.
Yeah.
You know, and I know that you have other men's groups, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the parenting group for men and for fathers has to be that safe space. And that's rarely provided, is it?
I suppose for us, and it's key to a lot of the work we do, the confidentiality piece. Although when we're in the room, that people feel comfortable to come and talk and share their experience of their own family and their own parenting. They're not being judged. It's very non-judgmental. All the people that are all there for the same reasons, because they want to better themselves and also to help the families, whatever situations they're going through.
Yeah. What would your advice be to new dads when they come in, or when you meet a new dad? Is it different, do you think? Or
yeah, it would be, I suppose. Obviously, for any new parents, especially new fathers coming in, it can be quite overwhelming having kids, not knowing what to do or where to go, if there's something wrong, or the panic. I suppose I can remember being a young dad and my son not being well and panicking, not knowing what to do. When it comes to the parenting programs, these fathers are coming, and a lot of them, I don't really care what anyone says. For a man to walk in that door is huge.
Yeah.
Because of the stigma, because of how they feel and because of what you think other people might feel or think, being a man and, being a father coming in. And obviously we just mentioned before that, normally in parenting programs, it's predominantly women. So it would be quite intimidating for men coming in to speak about being a parent and being a father. So it's up to me to try and break that down. And for any new fathers coming in, I would highly recommend them coming and taking part in our parenting programs. At the end of the day, like, we have a facilitator's manual, just because it's not in the manual doesn't mean that that's not part of being a father. There's so much that's not in the manuals that we have to figure out for ourselves. If you have a basis, somewhere to start, just a little bit of an understanding.
One of the ways that you were telling me that you've got men to attend is when the mothers aren't able to attend a certain session, you get them to sub in.
Exactly,
to get
so
a taste
I suppose just recently we had a family who the mom couldn't commit to so many sessions. So I'd suggested, well, what about your partner? Would he be interested in coming? So he did. He came along and he's been there every week now. He's really enjoying it.
Yeah, we just have to keep normalizing
we
that.
Do. We do.
Yeah, so I suppose that's one of the key messages from today's podcast. Fatherhood is very important for the father's well-being and for the child's well-being.
Definitely.
And there's support and advice available online and in lots of groups in different communities.
Mm-hmm.
We should highlight the signpost to Sláintecare Healthy Communities, because that's one of the...
They've been doing amazing work with fairness in Clondalk, and it's a fairly new initiative, even though Sláintecare, it's been around a little while. There's a real push lately, and it's all to do with health promotion and really, really positive, whether it be the Healthy Food Made Easy program. One of our workers out in Clondalk, and he provides like stop smoking clinics. There's yoga classes going on, just kind of basic. There's like community. They have so much happening in the local community. We're actually quite lucky in Clondalk, and that we have a really good, strong team from Sláintecare that provide some really, really good programs,
Yeah, for the listeners who want to know more about Sláintecare Healthy Communities, you can listen back to some of our Sláintecare Healthy Community episodes, or you can look up Sláintecare Healthy Communities on the HSE.ie website. So coming back to fathers, I know that you support men and fathers in other ways outside the parenting program. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. So I suppose when I first started in the job, being a man, I suppose I tended to have quite a lot of male clients who were fathers, some of them were single parents.
And your job was youth or community? Or?
In the family support. Right. In my past job, it would have been all men, although I would have worked with a lot of women. We used to do like resource clinic, but in the last kind of 2.5 years, when I first started the job, the first 6 months, I had 8 clients in particular that were men. 3 of them had very, very similar kind of issues happening in their life. And so did the other guys. So I went to my boss, said, look, I have an idea. I said, I don't know if I can do it, but I said, I have a couple of skills. I do a lot of art and I love teaching art, and I do the same thing, copper embossing. So I create art out of sheets of copper, and went to my boss with the idea and said, look, I really think it's a great idea to try and get men in. The men that were working with severe mental health issues, really, really severe, and some of them would have been going through very difficult breakups in their families. Some of them would have been homeless. Some of them would have been ex-drug addicts and stuff like that, who were just really struggling, I suppose. So I went to my boss with this idea, and we were meant to run a 6-week pilot program. And sure, we're 18 months later, still going strong. Every Wednesday night we meet in Clondalk. And I suppose I provide a safe space for these men to come and talk about their experience, about their life. A cup of tea, a sandwich, a bit of art. With men, it can be really hard to get them in the door, but going back to my previous job when I was working with travellers, it was so hard to engage these men. So that's where the copper art stuff come in, you know, I set up an actual, I would have been involved with setting up a bicycle mechanics training program.
Nice.
We ended up getting 12 traveller men fully qualified in City and Guilds bicycle mechanics and stuff, who then turned this into a social enterprise, you know, and for them it was brilliant. But, you know, the fathers group at the moment, you know, the key thing is that this is a safe space for these men to come and talk about whatever they need to talk about, you know.
Yeah.
Just an example is we have a young man who's 19, he's a young father. And then we have a guy there that's 72 years of age, you know. So it just goes to show you the wide range in age that we have there.
What you're doing with the sheets of copper, you're just kind of indenting the design into it.
So it's all kind of handmade. So it's all using hand tools made out of wood, and basically anything you can find that'll fit into that gap to push the copper out. But what we do is we draw onto the copper and we flip it over. And what we do, we start pushing in the design, and there's a lot of back and forth, you know. You're constantly flipping her over and flattening bits, raising bits, flattening bits, you know. It's a tedious process, but I suppose some of the art itself is absolutely amazing. Some of the art the fathers have been doing is just out of this world, you know.
Yeah.
Out of this world.
It reminds me of one of the messages from the men's sheds, you know, that you need to give something to the men so they can work shoulder to shoulder rather than face to face.
Very similar, I suppose. It is kind of like the men's shed model, but for us, it's really just about being able to provide a safe space for men to come and talk.
Yeah.
Now, whether it be about mental health, whether it be about your family issues, whatever it may be, it's like us men coming together to be able to help each other and support each other. You know, it's so important.
Yeah. Going back to the father's role and your work to engage fathers, and you mentioned the incentive. What other ways can we try and engage men?
I suppose we have a few different things, like a few different programs, but like even we have an allotment that during the summer, I try as much as possible to get a lot of these fathers out to come up, being outdoors, doing a bit of digging, bit of planting, bit of gardening, you know. It's so therapeutic, so good for the head, and being outdoors, you know, for these men. Trying to get them in initially for the parenting programs is always going to be hard, you know.
That's not easy to get as the initial engagement. You get them into the garden,
exactly.
Or you get them into the copper, or you get them into anything else, and then back into.
So it's like sometimes, you know, I'd use the allotment or I'd use the copper art program as a way to get these men involved.
Or trust, build up trust with them.
Exactly. And then, not that I'd be pushing the parenting programs, but I would always encourage them. You know, but even at that, like the Healthy Families program, just an example where it's like 8 different modules where you can do workshops, you know. So I've brought some of the workshops in from the Healthy Families program into the fathers group, you know.
Right.
I've had Sláinte Care come in and Keith come in and done talks with the guys around, you know, trying to stop smoking. Looking at maybe doing the Healthy Food Made Easy program with the guys. I suppose now that I have the group there, it's about now trying to give them stuff that we can do, you know, but beneficial stuff. Like I'm in the middle of actually setting up a QQI level 6 with another program down the road from us who have a wood workshop. So we're looking to put together like a level 6 QQI in woodwork, you know, for these guys as well. So
that sounds like a fantastic idea again, but you're using the things that we do, you know, something to hit or something to do.
Getting a bunch of men, and don't get me wrong, we have done it, like getting men in to sit down, talk, and a bit of flip chart out, you know, trying to do this. It can be hard, you know, but now that we have a kind of a good core group of men who engage, it's about offering these services out because they are important. It's teaching them really, really good life skills too, you know, especially the younger men who get involved.
Absolutely. So you're saying, Shane, there's still a bit of a barrier for men to come into the parenting. What kind of feedback do you get from men that's enjoyed the program?
So I find a lot of the men that have come through the program, initially, you know, when they get over the fear of actually coming in, they start to really enjoy it. And, you know, being able to break down them barriers or the stigma for these men to come in. It can be difficult at the start, I suppose. Coming into any group can be overwhelming. But I suppose once they get in and they start kind of actually figuring out that actually these families, these people are going through the same problems I have. You know, I experience the same issues in my house that they do. The fact that they don't feel isolated or they don't feel alone or this is something that they're just dealing with, you know, and having the whole shared experience with the fathers and the other parents in the room. But the feedback that I would get from some of the parents would be that they really enjoyed the sessions. That what they've learned, that they're going to try and bring it back to the house and try it out.
Yeah, you're giving them a lot of practical tools.
We are,
aren't you?
But even stuff like the messy play, like being able to go home and even for yourself it's like becoming a kid again, you know, getting your hands dirty, messing with flour or whether it be gloop or slime, you know. But it's really giving them a chance to take what they've learned and to bring back and to enjoy it with their family.
There's no way, isn't it funny that you mentioned they're making slime? I see my son making slime and having to get things to make slime. And it seems ridiculous. But there's no way that you can make slime with your child and think that was a waste of time.
But you look, the actual process of doing it is so beneficial. Look, at the outcome is not really The outcome doesn't matter. It's the process of what you do, how you and your children, I suppose, get on while you're doing it. It's the fun you have. And it's about us realising as adults, sometimes we need to get down to our children's levels. We need to get messy. We need to get dirty. We need to do stuff that sometimes we might not like doing. Like, I'd be coming home from work and I'd be wrecked, and somebody like, come on, are you coming out for a game of football? It's the last thing I want to do after work in 10 hours. But look, I go out, even if it's only 10, 15 minutes, just to spend that bit of time. And I would encourage a lot of the fathers to come and do the parenting programs. It's about them realising that, look, it's okay to do these kind of things with your children.
It's not only okay, it's great. Yeah, it's great. It's a huge investment, isn't it?
It is, and it's the relationships and the good things that will come out of that,
Your children will never forget those
No,
things.
They won't.
No. What do you see as the main benefits of for both the child and the father?
Yeah, for fathers who engage in our service, and what we would expect an outcome to be, that they will have good, healthy relationships with their children. They're able to talk to their children. Like, just a quick example. So if we have parents coming in and they're worried about children's behaviour, just say one of the kids needs a bit of support around how to regulate feelings and emotions or problem solving skills, we have a program called Working Things Out. But we would always encourage parents to also take up parenting programs, because we find if we're working with the children on one end and the parents on the other end, we'll get to the middle quicker and the outcomes are much better.
A lot of the times it's about positive communication.
Oh, yeah. It really is. It really is. It's about being able to build these relationships with our children, being able to talk to our kids so that when stuff does go wrong for them, that they can come and talk to us,
Yeah. I think as parents, we get into repeated cycles of conflict with the children.
All the time.
And we need somebody else to take a look at that.
Of course. And there is. And, I suppose the techniques and a lot of the stuff we be teaching parents is within every one of the Parenting Plus programs, we have the notion of pressing the pause button, tuning in, and making a plan. So pressing the pause button would be sometimes just not to react.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's much more beneficial to take a few breaths, take 30 seconds, walk out of the room, think about it. What's going on? Why is my child acting this way? Tune in, see what's going on for them, speak to them at their level, and then maybe try and get a plan around it, ideally. And I suppose that's something that we bring into all the parenting programs, is that for us as parents, it's about, look, we need to mind ourselves as well. And by us reacting, and a lot of times our kids are looking for a reaction, and if we're calm, we think out what we want to do. And also we need to tune in what's going on for our kids. And if we're able to do that, we're able to break down them barriers, build that relationship, build on the trust with our kids. They're more open to come and talking to us when anything arises in their life for issues,
Yeah. When you think about it, the home is where the heart is, and having a healthy home is
so important.
It's so important for as you said there, for the parents. Like, you're just throwing yourself into stress reacting, aren't you?
Big time. And look, a lot of the times, when we're looking at trying to help families, when there's serious issues with the children, whether it be behavioural problems or stuff, working with the parents and trying to, I suppose, empower them to be able to take back some sort of control in their lives. Because a lot of parents, their kids are controlling their whole life, For us as parents not to react sometimes to behaviours is difficult. And even for myself, it's something that I've learned by delivering the programs. I would have, in the early days, I would have been very reactive, When stuff come up, I would have been shouting and screaming. I'm not saying I don't now, very rarely, but it's about sometimes just being able to take a few deep breaths, keeping calm, and
trying to stay positive. I remember that stay positive was one of the key messages from the Triple P program. We still have it across the area, but you're doing Parenting Plus.
Parent Plus, PP,
But being able to take a positive approach, or as you said, the pause button, I think that's a great message, because we get pulled into that, conflict so quickly, and my wife kind of laughs at me saying my son presses my buttons because he's like me.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're just in a mess, and you don't even know what you started arguing about.
And it's hard because, look, I suppose as well, both parents need to be kind of singing off the one hymn sheet, to have good outcomes. We both need to work together, in the house.
Yeah. How do you bring that to the group then when there's either one or other parent attending? Do you have to give them homework?
Yeah. So basically every week we would send the parents home with something to do, whether it be a task, and a lot of the times it's about mindfulness and it's about them doing something for themselves, looking after themselves. Yeah, self-care, mental health, whether it be taking 10 minutes out of your day to do a bit of mindfulness or a bit of meditation or go for a walk or whatever makes you feel happy. It's something that at the end of every session, we would encourage the parents to go and do something for themselves. The hustle and bustle of life, sometimes it's so busy. We forget to look after ourselves. You might spend 5 or 10 minutes a day brushing your teeth, looking after your dental health. Do we spend 5 or 10 minutes a day looking after our mental health? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I would encourage all the men, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, even just one day in that week, to do something positive for themselves.
Yeah, no, that's a great message. And obviously it's implicit into their well-being and their ability to parent well as well.
100%.
Yeah.
I was doing a program last Wednesday morning, and it was all about kind of play with your children at a young age. So we come in and done a bit of messy play. We showed the parents how to make Play-Doh and stuff, It was a bit of crack,
Yeah.
And I suppose it's something that they can then bring home and do with their own children. And, it helps them build relationships with their kids. It's a bit of fun.
You're nearly like modelling the behaviour that you're trying to bring out.
Of course. Well, look, at monkey see, monkey do. We need to be very mindful that our kids watch and mimic everything we do.
Yeah.
So all the bad habits and all the bad traits they have are probably from us.
So you've been a good while at this now. You've been 2.5 years doing the
2.5
parenting, but you
years.
were really focused with the men before. You were telling us with the traveller men. You did a lot of different social issues. What have you learned about yourself since the father focus came in and the parenting focus came in?
Yeah, well, I suppose what I've learned is that I'm actually doing the right thing, which I suppose for a lot of parents is something we question all the time. Are we good parents? Are we doing the right thing? And the more work I do, the more I realise that actually, I am, I am a good role model. I do set good examples. I have got good values and morals that I try and instill in my children.
Isn't it great if you're able to get that feeling across to other parents?
Oh, yeah.
It lifts a burden of doubt.
But you know what? I think a lot of this is down to probably the last 2.5 years when I first kind of started looking at Parents Plus and started going through the manuals and thinking, Janie Mac, I wonder would that work for me? I might try that at home. And I did, I started bringing some of these things. I think the kids thought I was mad at the start, It's like trying to teach an old dog new tricks. But what I would say is it's much easier to, I suppose, impact on younger kids than there is on 16 or 17-year-olds. So I suppose for us, it's about catching them while they're young and trying to use some of the techniques. I guarantee if you start off at a young age, you're just going to set the kids up for success,
Yeah.
Rather than setting yourself up for failure, I'm not saying you can't change, I suppose, 14, 15, 16-year-olds' behaviours. You can. But it's a hard slug, You have to be consistent. Consistency is key.
That joint approach between the two parents.
Oh, yeah, it's important. And look, I understand a lot of the parents that I'd be working with may not have other parents there, and it could be quite difficult. But if possible, obviously having two parents in the household outcomes are going to be probably much better for children, especially if you have both parents working off the same hymn sheet, as they say. But I do understand, there's a lot of parents out there that are parenting alone. And fathers who are parenting alone. Good few of my friends, their parents.
So you have to be sympathetic to that extra burden that they have.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose I was raised by my mother. I suppose my dad was there for me childhood. And then obviously the family broke up. Me and my dad's my best friend. We still have a great relationship. But he moved away when I was 11 and he moved to a different country. So, it was quite difficult. And I suppose when I look back, I admire my mother for everything she done. Really, really admire the sacrifices that she made for us growing up. It's only now as an adult I realise how hard it was for her. It's hard enough having two parents trying to manage kids, let alone just being on your own,
Yeah.
So I admire anyone out there. A couple of my friends who are fathers who are parenting alone as well,
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's a very good point. But it brings a different dynamic to your group. It brings a different dynamic to your advice.
Yeah.
And it seems to be one of the key things is to take that burden of self-doubt off the parent.
Yeah.
You're doing a great job.
Exactly.
And if you wanted a bit of advice or you want to improve, let's focus on that. But
and that's it. And it's about, look, we would try and reiterate to all the parents coming in, look, there is no manual on being a parent, It's learn as you go, but, using, I suppose, the guidance of the Parent Plus programs will definitely benefit you. If you can take on board what's happening and try and bring it back to the house, they really, really will benefit. Like just the thing we spoke about a minute ago, pressing the pause button.
Yeah.
You would not believe the feedback that we would have from parents of how beneficial that is,
Yeah. It must be great to come back into the group the following week after giving them something like that. Yeah. And they're like, I actually tried that.
Yeah, it is. It's a great thing, when we're working with parents who are really struggling, and then by week 8, they're starting to see change. They're starting to enforce these changes within their children's lives and their families' lives, It is. It's very, very, for me, when you talk about job satisfaction, to me, it's so satisfying. When you get really good positive feedback from parents that, actually that's working.
Yeah.
Can't believe that's working.
It's completely changed the dynamic in the house as well, from being a house where stress might spike or conflict into even flow, shared understanding.
Yeah. But even for the children themselves, when you're going through tough times at home and, they know that they're going to get a reaction and all of a sudden mom or dad is not reacting. You know, kids find that they don't know how to react, you know, sometimes. I suppose we have unwritten rules in the household, you know. As a father, one of my things is I have to keep my children safe.
Yeah.
You know, which is an unwritten rule. I suppose we have negotiable rules, you know, where say my daughter wants to come in at 10:30 instead of 10 o'clock, you know, that's a negotiable rule. And, you know, it's something that we try and, I suppose, help parents is setting routine, whether it be food routines, whether it be bedtime routines. You know, it's about helping them impose or put in place good routines within the household that will benefit the children in the long run. But I know it can be hard sometimes when you're trying to bring in change. You know, the kids don't know what you're trying to do, but the outcome would be that, just an example, like if it's a bedtime routine, you know, the outcome would be that you don't have to stress of, you know, sometimes trying to get the kids to bed. And, you know, we can do up like charts, like routine charts to kind of help parents, like a 5-step chart for the kids before they go to bed, you know.
To wind down.
Yeah, of course. Like it could be like, obviously no TVs in the bedroom and stuff like that, but it could be 7 o'clock, you go and wash your hands, brush your teeth, you know, you get your pajamas on, be the next step. And, you know, then you get into bed. It might be a bedtime story, whatever it may be. It can be hard sometimes, but if the parents are consistent and they use some of the techniques, I think they will definitely reap the rewards.
Okay. And for Men's Health Week, the way we're doing this podcast and focus on fathers, what's your take on Men's Health Week? What's your message around that?
Yeah, so look at engaging in our service, and I'm quite lucky that we have a great bunch of men there have been engaged. We had an exhibition there just before Christmas in Copper about the Viking history of Clondalkin.
Oh, very good.
And for this Men's Health Week on the 14th, so it's obviously from the 10th to the 16th of June, we're hosting an event on the 14th of June. And I'm hoping to have a couple of guys from one of the local motorcycle clubs. They're going to come along with their bikes. I'm planning having, it's like going to be an exhibition of the father's work that they've done. So the theme is going to be mental health. And we're hoping to invite men in. We're going to have like a breakfast morning or a lunch kind of style thing to get men in, just to showcase the work and to highlight the good, positive work that the fathers have done within the group, you know. So it's really important. You know, we need to get more men feeling comfortable about talking about their mental health or their physical health, you know.
Yeah, I think that's it in a nutshell there. I think you've summed it up beautifully. It's great to hear that you're activating and promoting men's engagement for Men's Health Week. And I can't thank you enough for coming in. You've given fantastic, valuable insights into both the parenting, the fatherhood, and your work experience. It's really been great talking to you, Shane.
Thanks for having me, Ferg.
And the listeners, I'd like to thank you for tuning into another episode of the HSE Talking Health and Wellbeing podcast.